Would you say they're the novelists who've influenced you most?
Yes, I think they possibly are. I'd throw in Graham Greene and John Updike.
What if the most trusted cowboy in America was also the most misunderstood? For millions of kids, Hopalong Cassidy was a silver-haired symbol of honor. Clean-cut, calm, and always on the side of right. But behind the polished smile and pristine black hat was a man who quietly rewrote the rules of fame and paid the price for it. William Boyd, best known to the world as the gallant Hopalong Cassidy, was born William Lawrence Boyd on June 5, 1895 in Hendersburg, Ohio. Though destined for stardom, his beginnings were far from the silver screen. Boyd's early years were marked by the pursuit of work and stability. After his family moved to Tulsa, Oklahoma, and later to California, he took up odd jobs, picking oranges, surveying land, and modeling in department stores. These humble beginnings grounded Boyd in real-world experience, and his innate charm and rugged good looks eventually opened the doors to a film career. Boyd's entrance into Hollywood came during the silent film era of the 1910s and 1920s. His big break occurred with major roles in The Volga Boatman, 1926, and Cecil B. DeMille's The King of Kings, 1927. For a time, he was a leading man in demand. However, the transition to talkies proved challenging. A mistaken identity scandal involving another actor with the same name deeply harmed his career. Though innocent, Boyd was blacklisted by studios and thrust into obscurity. Unwilling to surrender, Boyd made a bold move in 1935 that would change his life. He acquired the rights to Clarence E. Mulford's Hopalong Cassidy stories. Not only did he star in the first film adaptation, but he also helped produce it. His version of Hopalong was striking: a silver-haired, all-black-wearing cowboy who lived by a strict moral code. Unlike the anti-heroes popular in westerns, Hopalong was a role model, a defender of justice and decency. From 1935 to 1948, Boyd starred in 66 Hopalong Cassidy films. His portrayal of a clean-living, heroic cowboy captivated audiences. Boyd wasn't content with cinematic success alone. In the 1950s, recognizing the potential of a new medium, he syndicated his films for television. This strategic foresight made Hopalong Cassidy a household name among post-war American families. Boyd also developed new content for TV and expanded the franchise into lunchboxes, comics, cereal boxes, and countless merchandise items. Despite his fame, Boyd remained a principled man. He refused to allow his character to be used in advertisements for products he deemed unfit for children, even at a financial loss. To Boyd, playing Hopalong meant carrying the responsibilities that came with being a role model. That commitment earned him the respect of parents and the admiration of fans nationwide. Boyd's personal life was a mix of romance, heartbreak, and resilience. He was married 5 times, each relationship reflecting different chapters of his journey. His first wife, Laura Main, came from wealth and introduced Boyd to high society. The marriage was short-lived but influential. His second marriage to actress Ruth Miller brought both joy and tragedy. The couple had a son, William Wallace Boyd, who died from whooping cough at just 9 months old. The loss devastated Boyd and cast a long shadow over his life. Though he rarely spoke of it publicly, the emotional wound was lasting and contributed to the eventual end of the marriage. His third wife, silent film star Eleanor Fair, was often seen with Boyd in the press, portrayed as Hollywood's golden couple. However, fame and its pressures dissolved the union. His fourth marriage to actress Dorothy Sebastian also ended in divorce, strained by the demands of Hollywood and personal differences. It was only with Grace Bradley, his fifth wife, that Boyd found lasting love. A successful actress and singer, Grace stood by Boyd for more than 3 decades. Their marriage brought stability and genuine companionship. She was his confidant, caregiver, and public advocate, especially in his later years as he battled illness. After retiring, Boyd moved to Palm Desert, California, and shifted his focus to real estate investments. His business acumen ensured he lived comfortably outside the limelight. He intentionally distanced himself from the public eye, determined to preserve the idealized image of Hopalong Cassidy. He declined interviews, refused public appearances, and rejected photo requests, believing that anything less than the gallant cowboy could taint his legacy. One of the most persistent mysteries in Boyd's life was his quiet friendship with fellow Western star Randolph Scott. Speculation swirled for years about the nature of their relationship. Finally, in the later years of his life, Boyd broke his silence. In a rare and emotional interview, he revealed the depth of their bond, not marked by scandal, but by respect and shared values. Boyd recalled their first meeting in the early 1930s as both men were rising stars in the Western genre. Though they never co-starred in a major film, their careers often mirrored each other, Boyd as the noble lawman, Scott as the stoic loner. They weren't public drinking buddies or red carpet regulars. Instead, they connected privately through letters, lunches, and fishing trips. Their friendship was rooted in integrity and a mutual desire to leave behind meaningful legacies. "We talked about legacy a lot," Boyd remembered. "We wanted boys to believe in doing the right thing, and fathers to be proud watching with them." Boyd made it clear Scott's quiet nature was not secrecy, but strength. In defending his friend from persistent rumors, especially concerning his relationship with Cary Grant, Boyd was firm. "Randy didn't owe the world an explanation," he said. "He lived with grace and decency. That should have been enough." This candid reflection came as a powerful tribute, not only to Scott, but to an era of Hollywood where your word and your work defined you. Boyd lamented the modern industry's obsession with fame, contrasting it with the grounded integrity of stars like Scott. Throughout his life, Boyd's personal convictions also shaped his political identity. A lifelong Republican, he quietly supported the party's traditional values. During the 1952 presidential election, Boyd publicly endorsed General Dwight D. Eisenhower, admiring his leadership and character. His endorsement wasn't just political, it reflected the same values of honor and responsibility Boyd championed as Hopalong Cassidy. Boyd's contributions to American film were formally recognized with a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame at 1734 Vine Street. This honor celebrated his transformation of the Western genre and his pioneering work in media syndication and branding. Further tribute came in 1995 when he was posthumously inducted into the Western Performers Hall of Fame at the National Cowboy and Western Heritage Museum in Oklahoma City. This recognition cemented Boyd's place as a visionary figure who helped shape the moral mythology of the American West. Sadly, William Boyd passed away on September 12, 1972, at the age of 77 after battling Parkinson's disease and congestive heart failure. In his final years, he endured immense physical hardship, but remained dignified and reserved. Grace Bradley, ever faithful, cared for him until the end. Boyd was laid to rest at Forest Lawn Memorial Park in Glendale, California, in the Great Mausoleum's Sanctuary of Guiding Love alcove. His crypt remains a quiet shrine for fans. When Grace passed in 2010 at the age of 97, she was interred beside him, their eternal bond sealed in stone. When William Boyd stepped into the saddle as Hopalong Cassidy in 1935, he did more than play a character. He set in motion a quiet cultural revolution. At a time when Western heroes on screen were rugged, rough around the edges, and often morally ambiguous, Boyd spun a new kind of myth. The cowboy as exemplar of virtue, chosen family, and moral clarity. His triumph was not just in the box office receipts, but in how he subtly refashioned the genre, shaping broader American ideals about heroism, fairness, and community. Boyd's Hopalong was a far cry from the lone gunslinger archetype popularized by dime novels and pulp. Though he carried a six-shooter, he used it sparingly with purpose and sobriety. He spoke kindly to children, treated all people with dignity, and defended the underdog. His horses bore traditional tarnished saddles, and even his silver hair became a defining emblem, an unstated signal to viewers. This hero was seasoned, wise, and steadfast. Behind the scenes, Boyd fought alongside screenwriters, directors, and even studio executives to ensure Hopalong's values never wavered. He mastered the art of editing out content that pushed boundaries too far. Violence, romance, rough language, helping shape a Western that could be enjoyed by families on Saturday afternoon. He built a stable of recurring supporting players. Pappy Thursby, the moral compass. Johnny Nelson, the eager youth. Overseers of cattle drives, each representing facets of community. Wisdom, innocence, industry. The Western town, a set worn in and comforting, became a character in its own right, a place of commerce, justice, and redemption. Town meetings were held, disputes resolved, cattle ranches fought off rustlers, all unfolded with integrity front and center. Boyd's insistence on moral clarity and respectful storytelling pushed the genre into wholesome territory. In effect, he catalyzed what scholars refer to as the polite Western. Stories that honored courage not through spectacle but through stewardship of land and neighbor. His creations resonated deeply in Depression-era America, offering both escape and aspirational values. Boyd's skill at controlling the narrative around his franchise, product by product, airing schedule by airing schedule, was pioneering. He knew that Hopalong's brand equity was built on trust, so he declined situations he thought could jeopardize it, even if that meant losing millions of dollars. He refused for decades to license cigarette ads, alcohol raffles, fashion that catered to adult fantasies, or TV specials centered on his appearance alone. That said, Boyd was impeccable in partnership offers he did accept. He toured schools and summer camps in character, sometimes impersonating Hopalong to read stories aloud, teach good manners, and impress upon young audiences the importance of honesty, courage, perseverance, and civic morals. Over time, these visits became the stuff of legend, an earned cultural inheritance, even getting occasional mentions in Sunday newspaper columns. Much of Boyd's consistency and market discipline came from his partnership with Grace Bradley. Married in 1939, she was more than a supporting spouse. She was a creative advisor, publicist, and at times co-producer. Watching Hopalong Cassidy from a promotional standpoint, she suggested subtle image updates. Glossy black hats and television close-ups, custom-made boots, color-coordinated on-screen wardrobes, eco-conscious environmental messaging when filming in loco in diverse Western terrains. Grace had a carefully managed media presence, modest, supportive, dignified. She sometimes wrote op-eds in women's magazines, encouraging mothers to limit screen violence, suggesting evening activities that complemented Hopalong's values, like family readings, nature walks, storytelling games. Her presence reinforced the image of Boyd as not just a cowboy, but a man rooted in family, responsibility, and partnership. Together, they spent summers at Palm Desert, where Grace helped design interior settings that reflected Western elegance. Rides through Joshua Tree, philanthropic luncheons supporting students of agriculture and natural sciences, and Hopalong-themed educational prizes in rural California counties. After Boyd's death, Grace became the guardian of his legacy. She oversaw the National Cowboy Heritage Museum exhibit, negotiated re-releases of the Hopalong films on emerging media, Laserdisc, DVD, and granted licensing rights carefully, permitting remastered TV broadcast but blocking attempts to twist his image. When cultural figures or advertisers sought to repurpose Hopalong Cassidy for satire or parody, she declined, saying it would dilute his aspirational shine. Plain-spoken and consistent, Grace remained the narrative thermostat, imbued with high integrity, assuring that Hopalong Cassidy never strayed from the moral compass William Boyd had etched in celluloid. Boyd's rare revelation in the 1960s about his bond with Randolph Scott gave the public a glimpse of a deeper Hollywood brotherhood, rugged, private, principled. Scott, known for his quiet reserve, dignified voice and aristocratic posture, complemented Boyd's affability with contrast, yielding a rare friend pairing that embodied the complexity of masculine virtue on and off set. Their friendship spanned 3 decades of private communiques, unpublicized weekend retreats to Montana cabins, shared routines of rereading John Wayne's final drafts, comparing approaches to filming cliff scenes, choreographing mounted routines they might want in future work. Biographers later uncovered letters from Scott to Boyd, addressed simply Bill, filled with extolling Boyd's dedication to children. The way you live that character beyond the set. Boyd reciprocated by sending Scott gifts from Hope-Along-themed ranches, hand-tooled leather belts, blankets hand-stitched with silhouette images of Scott's most famous rides. In Boyd's final interviews in 1970 and 1971, he confided that Scott's influence had shaped his own sense of reserve. "Randy," he said, "reminded me that some lives aren't meant for spectacle. Quiet steadfastness, self-control, those are the things that keep folks believing in better things. I learned to let Hopalong speak loudly while Bill Boyd carried himself quietly." Boyd's defense of Scott during controversies surrounding Scott's personal life was more than friendship. It was a public statement of loyalty to the value of reputational privacy. Calling him a man of grace, Boyd insisted it was no one's place to judge Scott's closeted life or interrupt his quiet excellence on screen. Boyd remained a low-key but permanent figure in Republican circles from the 1940s through the 1960s. He was invited to meet Eisenhower at a private luncheon in 1953, appearing in family magazines with the general's wife, Mamie. Boyd credited Eisenhower's approach to leadership, teamwork, humility, restraint, as resonant with his understanding of Hopalong's brand of cowboy patriotism. Boyd's strongest political advocacy, however, was local and apolitical, promoting responsible ranching, conservation of western wildlife habitats, water stewardship in desert communities, and preservation of film archives. He believed that American identity was inseparable from landscapes, redwood forests, San Juan Mountains, Mojave Clouds, and that both Hopalong Cassidy and civic virtue were rooted in respect for the land. In Arizona, Boyd spoke at the 1960 Save the Desert Conference in Tucson, voicing concern for rampant development and celebrating the silent dignity of the deserts. He told delegates quietly, "If we don't teach boys to care for rivers and plains, they'll grow up caring only for profit." It was a cause he and Grace continued, donating to youth land camps in California and Oregon. In his final years after Parkinson's diagnosis in 1966 and recurrent congestive heart failure in 1970, Boyd's life took on a quieter pace. He avoided press, public events, and film retrospectives, but that didn't mean he retreated entirely. Every spring, he wrote a public newsletter, 2 typed pages, a handwritten tagline. "Friends of Hopalong, we are still writing." He invited fans to remember inclusion, empathy, self-reliance, and to write in with game ideas. One remained, Hope-Along Cassidy-themed educational kits for elementary schools. He enclosed signed postcards and thank you notes he sent himself, pre-formatted, self-addressed. Those around him said Boyd spent afternoons on his porch in Palm Desert, in a rocking chair, surrounded by photos of horses, desert views, and a pinto named Hoppy II. Grace had installed a small desk, recliner, recorder, and legal forms. He drafted a final memo to the Hollywood Walk of Fame committee about restoring his star in color. "Let it be white for silver hair," he scribbled, "and black for a hat that stood the test of integrity." When he died on September 12, 1972, he left behind not just 66 films, but a purpose-driven legacy, frozen in time yet still alive in values. He commanded no funeral, not a press spectacle. Grace arranged a quiet service at Forest Lawn's Great Mausoleum. Standing room only, yes, but only a handful from media, mostly family, friends, a few past co-stars, dozens of desert children still wearing Hope-Along hats, some crying quietly. There were tear-streaked rainbows in California that morning. Ultimately, William Boyd's life story, from Hartford orange picker to Western icon, became more than a biography. It was a manifesto for the modern stewardship of personal brand, for using celebrity responsibly, for building across media generations, and for protecting the public trust. His personal life, 5 marriages, genuine heartbreak, triumphant love, was less glitzy than the Hollywood public narrative. Instead, it became a testament to emotional perseverance and moral fortitude. His rare admission about Randolph Scott, decades after that bond began, offered modern audiences an archetype of platonic male friendship defined by support, discretion, and shared vision. Not flash, gossip, or scandal. And his unwavering devotion to character and principle, Boyd walked away from money to protect his image. He rejected overexposure to preserve all of the dignity of Hopalong's values. His last line, written in 1971, summed it all up in 24 words. If boys still stand straighter when they put on a cowboy hat, and fathers smile as they watch over shoulders, then Hopalong. Boyd didn't vanish on retirement. He transformed. He pieced together a new life in real estate, philanthropy, and brand storytelling. He became a mentor, once sending a letter of counsel to a young actor, nudging him to avoid lowlifes or quick cash. He planted trees in the desert. He performed random acts of kindness. In short, he lived the values his hero did. When Grace died in 2010, the world lost a guardian of a remarkable legacy. In her final public statement, she wrote, "He believed that every child deserves a hero who stands tall and speaks truth. He also knew that heroes are made by deeds, not just words." Though the Hopalong Cassidy name might feel relic to modern ears, the Warren Bird influence, the careful cultivation of trust, image, and silence over cheap amplification, lives on. William Boyd not only created a better cowboy, he created a better celebrity. And in doing so, he carved a unique legacy, one where silence could speak more loudly than noise, and where small personal decisions shaped culture for generations to come. In the end, Boyd's words say it best. If people see a little boy in a cowboy hat with a wooden gun pretending to ride into the sunset, then we did our job. Randy and I, we rode for the brand. Through decades of evolving entertainment, Boyd remains a symbol of a time when heroes stood tall, spoke little, and meant what they said. His story is more than nostalgia. It's a blueprint for integrity in the spotlight. If this story moved you, drop a comment. We'd love to hear your memories or what Hopalong meant to your family. And if you're into forgotten icons, untold legacies, and Hollywood's best-kept secrets, hit subscribe.